Hello, and welcome to The Sleepy Owl, a cozy nook where you can gently unwind and drift into a peaceful night's rest. Tonight, we're sharing another soothing story, one that can help settle your mind and foster a feeling of quiet calm. But first, let's take a moment to prepare our bodies and minds for a tranquil, rejuvenating sleep. Settle in comfortably, and with each slow inhale and gentle exhale, allow the day's worries to gradually fade away. It can be challenging to pull away from the day's busyness, particularly as bedtime approaches. Yet remember, the less we stress over falling asleep quickly, the easier it becomes for our minds to release any tension. Let the gentle rhythm of your breath carry off lingering concerns, and let tonight's story be your guide toward deep relaxation. Now make yourself comfortable and let the warmth of the sleepy owl envelop you. Enjoy the story, and may you find a restful, peaceful slumber here in our little nighttime sanctuary. Tucked into a corner nook beside a rain-streaked window of the patisserie, Serafina watched the afternoon dissolve. A tempestuous mood governed the late hours. Along the Maine coast, autumn daylight dwindled with marked haste, a brevity now deepened by bruised clouds scudding low. Already, confused by the premature twilight, a few street lamps along the thoroughfare outside cast hesitant pools of illumination. Within, however, the world Serafina inhabited offered stark sanctuary from the exterior chill. Closing time loomed, yet the air remained thick with the solace of coffee and baking bread. The shop hummed quietly, nearly deserted save for patrons retrieving last-minute provisions. A woman exiting now, clutching a box of delicate biscuits, perhaps destined for some intimate supper gathering. Periodically, the espresso machine sighed a steamy breath, contributing its own warmth to the space. Serafina's gaze drifted through the glass, settling on the Main Street storefronts bravely aglow against the encroaching gloom. A whimsical contest seemed underway. Straw-stuffed figures, clad in festive attire, stood sentinel in sheltered doorways, jaunty guardians against the Halloween tide. They looked perfectly situated amidst the miniature cyclones of fallen leaves, skirling in alcoves, remnants of October's foliage surrendering to the wind. This region she'd first encountered in summer, drawn by a fascination with the Rockland breakwater light. A lifelong devotee of phrenology, Serafina had spent months intermittently tracing Maine's coastline, visiting its storied beacons. Time constraints on that previous journey, dictated by other pressing matters, had left items unchecked on her itinerary. Discovering her route would bring her near again presented an opportune moment for the long-anticipated pilgrimage to the Maine Lighthouse Museum before continuing onward. The nearby Owl's Head Light also beckoned, reputed to possess one of Maine's last operational Fresnel lenses, and reportedly a vista of breathtaking scope. The museum's website proclaimed it the nation's paramount institution of its kind, custodian of an immense collection encompassing lenses, foghorns, and myriad historical apparatus. Following her recent months immersed in research, encountering these artifacts firsthand, absorbing the detailed chronicles accompanying them, proved profoundly gratifying. Scale models of celebrated lighthouses she'd studied or personally visited stood testament to their grandeur. Yet it was invariably the narratives of pivotal keepers and their kin that resonated most deeply. She had lingered far longer than anticipated, wandering the exhibits in blissful solitude. Tourist season had waned. Retrospectively, her timing was impeccable. Emerging from the museum's warm seclusion into the wind-lashed streets had been jarring. Thus, she'd sought refuge here in this patisserie's embrace. Her lodging for the night, an inn situated beyond the town limits, wasn't ready for check-in. A cup of sweet, milky chai offered the perfect justification to sequester herself in this charming local haven before venturing down the peninsula. A cheerful chime from the bell above the front door announced another departure. A final customer waved farewell to the staff, slipping out into the sharp October air. Serafina surfaced from her thoughts, recognizing the need to soon finish her drink and depart. Taking another sip of chai, she retrieved a small, leather-bound notebook from her satchel, intending to refresh her memory on the fundamental details of Owl's Head Light before tomorrow's visit. She nodded inwardly, scanning the compiled facts. Commissioned in 1825 following President John Quincy Adams' approval. Positioned strategically on a peninsula thrusting into Penobscot Bay just east of Rockland. Like many of its main contemporaries, Owl's Head was initially constructed of rubble stone, a cost-saving measure undoubtedly, but succumbed rapidly to deterioration, necessitating a rebuild with more resilient brick in 1852. The beacon itself was diminutive, a tower merely 30 feet tall. Yet its elevated perch, nearly 100 feet above the water, allowed its beam considerable reach across the bay. The modest fourth-order Fresnel lens, installed post-renovation in 1852, proved sufficient to cast its light approximately 18 miles over the waves. As Serafina recalled from prior lighthouse explorations, Fresnel lenses varied immensely in scale. This was certainly not among the giants. Draining the last of her chai, Serafina placed the notebook before her. The history of this small lighthouse seemed relatively uncomplicated. Primarily, she anticipated the view. A quote attributed to an author named Elias Thorne had captured her imagination. In his volume, The Pine Tree Coast, he had apparently written, "Owl's Head ushers at once upon a scene almost too beautiful to profane with speech. When we are looking at it, impossible to find language to do it justice." Whether this assertion held true amidst late autumn's dun austerity remained uncertain. Yet she resolved to witness it herself come morning. Serafina folded the notebook, tucking it securely into her bag. Rising, almost with reluctance, from her snug window sanctuary, she cleared her small table and donned her warm coat. Wrapping a soft scarf around her neck, she pushed open the door, stepping out into the brisk autumnal embrace. Now, nearly all the streetlights concurred on the lateness of the hour, casting a soft, unified glow along the pavement. Serafina navigated past the neon blaze of the vintage cinema's marquee, locating the spot where her car awaited. She slid gratefully into the comparative warmth of the driver's seat, placing her bag beside her. With the engine humming faithfully and warmth whispering from the vents, she activated the navigation system, directing the vehicle toward her refuge for this blustery night. The bed and breakfast lay not far distant. Indeed, as she drove southward, leaving the towns behind, she passed a turnoff she recognized would lead to the lighthouse itself. Tonight, however, the prospect of cozying up indoors held greater appeal. Glimpses of the harbor flickered to her left before the road veered slightly inland, flanked by dense thickets. A weathered sign, barely discernible in the failing light, announced her entry into the town that grew from sea and stone. After perhaps 10 minutes, she arrived amidst a small constellation of houses and businesses clustered around a diminutive cove. Gratitude swelled for her navigation aid. Addresses proved challenging to decipher in the near total darkness. Nevertheless, she located the correct driveway on her initial attempt, pulling into an empty parking space, surmising she might indeed be the sole guest. Serafina opened her car door into the escalating wind, retrieving her overnight bag from the trunk. Bowing her head against a particularly strong gust, she hurried onto the sheltered porch and pushed open the heavy front door. Maneuvering her luggage inside swiftly allowed her to pull the door shut behind her, instantly silencing the autumn chill. She paused in the entryway, catching her breath. Speculating on the age of the dwelling, she mused it might once have been a farmhouse. Not grand, but undeniably cozy. Her gaze fell to the rustic, wide wooden planks underfoot, then shifted through a nearby doorway into a living room where flames danced merrily in a hearth. A small desk stood directly ahead, a bell resting upon it. Before she could consider ringing it, however, swift footsteps approached from the rear of the house. A woman emerged, casually attired in jeans and an apron, looking as though she'd just stepped from the kitchen. A broad smile illuminated her face as she introduced herself as Eleanor, welcoming Serafina warmly and offering a polite apology for her informal appearance. Serafina assured her no formality was expected, prompting shared laughter. The distinct impression persisted. This was decidedly not the inn's peak season. The atmosphere consequently felt pleasingly relaxed. Eleanor guided Serafina upstairs, showing her to her room. "You're our only guest tonight," she explained, "so I've given you the large room with the lovely view." Serafina expressed her thanks, anticipating the pleasure of discovering the vista come sunrise. Her host then extended an invitation for a light supper downstairs, once she was settled. "With no one else arriving," Eleanor added, "I thought you might enjoy a bite by the fireside. Does that appeal?" Serafina thought it sounded utterly marvelous and conveyed as much. With that, Eleanor departed, closing the door softly behind her. Serafina surveyed her accommodation. It did indeed possess windows promising an excellent outlook, though the current darkness outside veiled any hint of the promised panorama. Drawing the curtains against the night, she took stock of the welcoming space. A queen-size bed dominated the center, adorned with a patchwork quilt and crisp white linens. Hardwood floors, mirroring those downstairs, contributed to the cozy ambiance, softened by an oval braided rug. An antique chest of drawers stood nearby, surmounted by a charming old lamp, casting a golden halo of light. The walls featured wallpaper, decorated with a delicate floral pattern. The entire room felt both spacious and snug. She looked forward to reading in bed for a spell after supper. This was an ideal sanctuary for the night. Tidying her wind-tousled hair in the mirror, she unpacked a few essentials before deciding to venture downstairs. Hunger wasn't acute, but the allure of the fire proved irresistible. Taking her book, she left her bedroom haven, descending the slightly creaking stairs back to the living room. Several immense plush armchairs and a small sofa were arranged invitingly around the fireplace. Serafina selected one, sinking gratefully into its depths, captivated by the gently undulating flames. The room was tastefully appointed with bookshelves and intimate furniture groupings suggesting conversational nooks. A bay window presumably overlooked the street, though the exterior darkness obscured any view. Street lights were sparse in this small riverside hamlet. After Serafina had been seated for a few moments, Eleanor reappeared, poking her head around the corner to offer a couple of dinner options. Serafina gratefully accepted the suggestion of seafood chowder and a green salad. Eleanor promised a swift return with a tray and vanished once more. Serafina leaned back into the armchair's embrace, closing her eyes. The room's only sounds were the steady ticking of a nearby grandfather clock and the companionable crackle from the hearth. Faintly, she could discern Eleanor moving about in the kitchen, seemingly located at the house's rear, opening and closing cupboards. Fortuitously, Eleanor reappeared shortly with dinner, forestalling the encroaching drowsiness. A standing tray bearing hot soup, oyster crackers, and a delicate green salad materialized before Serafina, just as sleep threatened. While waiting for the chowder to cool slightly, Serafina inquired if Eleanor would be dining as well. Eleanor replied that she had already eaten, but settled into a chair opposite Serafina, asking about her plans for the morning. Breakfast, Eleanor reminded her, was included. In discussing the morning meal, Serafina mentioned her intention to visit the lighthouse, expressing hope for clement weather. Eleanor nodded with approval, affirming the trip's worthiness. "Of course," Eleanor remarked, "at this time of year you'll only be able to see the lighthouse exterior. Tours won't be running tomorrow." She paused, then added with a knowing glint, "But the legends are truly the finest part." Serafina halted, spoon poised mid-air, an eyebrow arching inquisitively. "Legends?" she echoed. "Such as?" Eleanor leaned forward, her eyes twinkling. "Do you mean to tell me you've journeyed here entirely unaware of the ghosts?" In her meticulous research of coastal lighthouses, their histories, keepers, even their mechanisms, Serafina had encountered no mention of hauntings. Intrigued, she broke open her small packet of oyster crackers and prompted Eleanor to elaborate. Settling back into her armchair, Eleanor nodded as if merely awaiting the invitation. With the fire casting dynamic patterns of light and shadow before them and the wind keening at the windows, she commenced. "The crux of it is," Eleanor began, "both spirits said to haunt the lighthouse are remarkably helpful. Anyone familiar with the keepers and their profound dedication understands they regarded their duties with utmost gravity. No obstacle deterred them from their tasks. For some, I suppose, this devotion translated into perpetual vigilance over the light. Two benevolent entities still stand guard at Owl's Head Light. The first is believed to be a former keeper, though his precise identity remains uncertain." Serafina realized she held a spoonful of chowder suspended halfway to her lips while Eleanor paused. She completed the bite, momentarily diverted by the chowder's exquisite flavor. Swallowing the rich, savory broth, she dipped her spoon again, awaiting Eleanor's continuation. With perfect dramatic timing, her host resumed. "Various accounts describe footprints discovered in the snow leading directly to the lighthouse, footprints consistent with workmen's boots. Now, one might retort, what of it? Any man could have walked there in the snow. But herein lies the peculiarity. The tracks invariably lead only in one direction." Eleanor spread her hands for emphasis before continuing. "And upon following these unidirectional prints to the tower itself, astonished keepers have reportedly found the brass gleaming and the lens meticulously cleaned." Serafina recalled all she'd learned about the sacrosanct nature of those daily maintenance rituals. Such spectral assistance, she knew, would indeed signify a spirit of the most beneficial sort. Eleanor hadn't finished with her ghostly keeper, however. "During the 1980s, she went on, a family resided at Owl's Head Light, including their 2-year-old daughter, Lily. Apparently, her father once discovered her out of bed in the dead of night, whereupon she earnestly informed him, 'Fog's rolling in, time to put the foghorn on.' Anyone acquainted with toddlers knows they absorb peculiar phrases, yet the keeper and his wife swore they'd never uttered such words around little Lily. The pronouncement seemed to spring from nowhere." Eleanor raised a finger. "For years, within the keeper's house, Lily casually referenced the presence of a bearded man clad in a blue coat and a seaman's cap." Serafina found she had finished her chowder, almost unconsciously, sheepishly placing her spoon beside the empty cracker packet. The tale of the spectral keeper was compelling enough, but curiosity now turned toward the second spirit. Eleanor did not prolong the suspense. Naturally, anyone versed in lighthouse lore knows that maintaining a light station often required the assistance of wives, even children. Serafina nodded. Her research had certainly confirmed this reality. Eleanor continued her narrative. "There exists a benevolent presence many refer to as the Little Lady, seemingly dedicated to housekeeping at Owl's Head. She apparently enjoys rattling the silverware in the keeper's house kitchen, and has also been linked to the spontaneous opening and closing of doors." Eleanor shrugged, conveying a neutral stance on this information. Then she added, "A keeper during the late 1980s reported his wife glimpsing a woman in a white dress gazing out the windows, while their son insisted a lady frequently occupied a chair in his room. Observers consistently describe her presence as peaceful. Her spectral cohabitation isn't unwelcome." Serafina contemplated the two accounts for a moment, and presumably, after the light's automation post-1980s, there's no one residing there to confirm if the ghosts remain, she queried. Eleanor nodded again approvingly. "For all we know," she stated, "the spirits might be the sole entities maintaining a 24-hour watch to this very day." Having now consumed her lovely green salad, Serafina leaned back into the soft armchair, folding her napkin upon the tray. Eleanor paused, inquiring if she might fancy some hot cider. Serafina agreed cider would be delightful, and her host carried the tray to the kitchen to fetch their drinks. Sinking a little deeper into her seat, Serafina watched the mesmerizing flicker within the hearth, a warm languor beginning to settle over her limbs. Eleanor returned bearing 2 steaming mugs, releasing a delicious aroma of apples into the room. She placed a cup on the side table between them and resumed her seat. Then she began anew. "Of course, my personal favorite story concerning Owl's Headlight involves no ghost at all. It centers on a remarkably heroic dog named Spot." At this, Serafina's eyes widened. She lifted her hot cider, blowing gently across its surface to cool it. While waiting, she paused, inhaling the comforting spicy fragrance, closing her eyes in appreciation before prompting Eleanor to tell her about Spot. Her host obliged readily. During the 1930s and 40s, a keeper lived at the lighthouse with his family, including 2 daughters named Alice and Grace. As the tale is told, they trained their Springer Spaniel, Spot, to ring the fog bell by tugging its rope whenever a boat passed. It evolved into a custom. Passing vessels would respond with a bell ring or horn toot. Spot held particular affection for the mail boat from Matanicus Island. The mailman, a fellow named Silas Croft, was known to bring Spot treats. Consequently, the dog invariably reacted to the distinctive thrum of his engine. Well, one ferocious night, a storm raged, burying the fog bell beneath deep snowdrifts. Simultaneously, the mailman desperately needed that bell's guidance to navigate past the treacherous rocks at the cliff base. Legend recounts that upon hearing the mailboat's approach, Spot scratched frantically at the door to be let out. He raced to the shore and commenced barking furiously. The mailman managed to whistle back in reply, successfully steering clear of the perilous rocks. Thus, Spot achieved hero status. He's no phantom, but his memory is immortalized at the lighthouse. A plaque commemorates him there. Such a very good boy. Eleanor smiled at the thought of the plucky spaniel sipping her cider. Serafina smiled too. She savored the final warmth of her steaming drink, setting the empty mug beside her. Leaning her head back against the chair, she regarded the fireplace thoughtfully. I'm immensely glad I heard these stories before visiting, she remarked to Eleanor. And to imagine all I anticipated was a view. Eleanor chuckled in accord. You'll likely have the place entirely to yourself this time of year, she said. You can visit Spot's Memorial peacefully, and the weather forecast for tomorrow looks promising. Both women glanced toward the rattling window panes nearby, sitting in companionable silence for a moment, listening to the old house creak comfortably around them. Perhaps, sensing the opportune moment for withdrawal, Eleanor rose and collected their empty mugs. She informed Seraphina that warm muffins and fruit would be available in the kitchen from 7 o'clock onwards. With that, she offered a kind nod, wished her guest a restful night, and vanished once more into the rear of the house. The fire radiated such warmth, the chair offered such profound comfort, that Seraphina felt disinclined to ascend the stairs. Yet the allure of her comfortable bed beckoned. Eventually, she stirred from her spot in the sitting room and quietly made her way to the top landing. The hour wasn't exceptionally late, but the profound darkness and tumultuous weather outside lent bedtime an extra appeal. After changing into pajamas and brushing her teeth, Seraphina gratefully pulled back the cheerful quilt, nestling down between the crisp white sheets. The bed proved enormously comfortable. She tucked the cover snugly under her arms, stretching her legs toward the foot of the mattress with a contented exhale. A brief attempt to read her book proved futile. The words soon blurred before her weary eyes. Within minutes, she abandoned the effort to remain awake. Switching off the lamp, she drifted away upon a sea of dreams, lulled into slumber by the gentle percussion of tree branches tapping against the window pane. That night, Seraphina dreamt of her excursion to the diminutive White Owl's Head lighthouse. In sleep's realm, she envisioned awakening to a sun-drenched autumn morning. Her dream window revealed a glittering river meeting the Gulf of Maine beyond the village, the sunlight executing a merry ballet upon the most intensely blue water she had ever beheld. In this vivid phantasm, she descended to the sun-infused farmhouse kitchen to discover a basket brimming with crumbly warm muffins awaiting her, alongside a steaming mug of coffee. She savored each morsel, tasting the exquisite fusion of blueberries and the pearl sugar crusting the baked delights. Coffee steam drifted through the sunbeams striping the kitchen table, fortifying her against the crisp autumn air she would encounter outdoors. Then, as dreams often dictate, she was instantaneously situated in her car, luggage neatly stowed. She found herself driving along a road leading north toward Owl's Head State Park. Dense stands of trees flowed past on either side, some evergreen, many others displaying only the final russet-orange vestiges of autumn clinging to sparsely clad limbs. Sunlight reached eagerly through the newly bared branches, claiming winter territory. As her destination neared, the harbor waters sparkled to her left. small vessels chugged purposefully away from town, embarking on the day's errand. And then, arrival. She parked her car in a lot utterly devoid of other visitors. Stepping out into the brisk October air, Serafina followed a wide gravel path. To one side, she perceived her elevated position on a promontory. To her right, glimpses of the bay waters peeked through the trees, hinting at the sweeping panoramas yet to unfold. The lighthouse materialized before her. A neat keeper's cottage stood to her left, while the brilliant white brick tower of Owl's Head Light crowned a steep incline. Stairs zigzagged upward, meeting the tower abruptly at the summit, an invitation ascending toward the heavens. She climbed slowly, deliberately, and upon reaching the top, turned, releasing a sigh of pure contentment. The vista spread before her possessed all the magnificence she had hoped for. The grass-covered hillside had faded to autumn's palette of gold and rust, yielding to the craggy headland thrusting into the water. Beyond lay an expanse of churning depths, shifting from aqua to profound blue, stretching from horizon to horizon. In the distance, through dissipating morning mist, land masses emerged as hazy silhouettes. Were they peninsulas? Islands? Serafina couldn't discern. She knew only this: in that breathtaking, luminous moment, enveloped by the bracing, salty breeze, she was becoming interwoven with the history of Owl's Head. Drifting effortlessly through her dreamscape, she stood thus for a minute, or perhaps an hour. Eventually, however, her dream self stood before a simple stone marker inscribed, "Spot, the Lighthouse Dog." Reading this plain epitaph, etched forever onto this isolated hillside above the sea, Serafina smiled inwardly just before waking, imbued with a comforting certainty that this unassuming beacon would forever possess faithful caretakers watching over it. An immaculate sun presides over a day sculpted from light, cerulean perfection. The sky mirrors itself in the vast, placid ocean beneath, a twin dome of flawless blue. Where sunlight strikes, the water ignites, a scatter of liquid diamonds upon a surface that seems, for this suspended moment, utterly still. The wind holds its breath. Waves unfurl onto the sand with languid grace, their arrival and departure a sibilant whisper, a gentle, hypnotic pulse against the shore. In, then out, a cadence of liquid peace. At first, the rhythm seems immutable, each wave a perfect echo of the last, a sigh identical to the one preceding it. Then, a fleeting caprice of the breeze stirs the air. The waves swell almost imperceptibly, their voice deepening for a breath before subsiding. Though regular, this oceanic heartbeat possesses infinite subtle variations, a testament to its intricate connection with sand, air, and the myriad lives held within its depths. What appears monotonous is, in truth, eternally mutable, responsive to the slightest atmospheric shift. A mere veer in the wind acts as a conductor's unseen gesture, urging the liquid orchestra towards crescendo, then lulling it back to pianissimo, altering the soundscape in ways only the denizens of this realm truly perceive. High on invisible currents, Kalen the gull carves slow circles against the blue. He is intimately familiar with the ocean's moods, its visual cues, its sonic tapestry. His sharp eyes scan the glittering expanse below, awaiting the precise instant for his descent, a feathered arrow seeking sustenance. When the water lies clear and a flicker of silver betrays life near the surface, he will plunge. With vision capable of spanning miles, this effortless patrol on such a crystalline day promises success. He hunts not just for himself, but for the newly hatched fledglings nestled high on the cliff face, watched over by Lyra, his mate, his partner for life, a fidelity rare beyond their kind. Fish are the prize, though clams or mussels offer a worthy, if challenging, alternative. For these, Kalen employs practiced ingenuity, carrying the stubborn shells aloft and letting gravity shatter them against the unyielding rocks below. A difficult morsel, but delectable, justifying the effort. Kalen drifts further along the coast, gaze unwavering. Then a tremor of movement, a fleeting kaleidoscope of color just beneath the waves. He knows these pale, quicksilver forms. A sharp, exultant cry pierces the air. Directly below, an immense congregation of fish pulses, a living cloud shimmering in the depths. Abundance, enough for his own family and the entire cliffside colony. His call acts as a beacon. Moments later, wings beat the air as others converge, drawn by his clamorous announcement. Their own expressive calls join his, a raucous symphony echoing along the coastline, carried for miles on the tranquil air. Though renowned for their boisterous nature, gulls are not frivolous noisemakers. They are intelligent, profoundly social creatures. Through a complex repertoire of vocalizations and body language, they maintain the intricate web of their colony. This dialogue begins even before hatching, a faint peeping from within the egg soliciting parental care, answered by the adults in soft, mewling tones, a form of avian baby talk. Courtship calls are similarly gentle, contrasting sharply with the loud trumpeting declarations needed for territorial disputes or warnings. Humans might try to impose their own interpretations. This is mine. Elation, triumph. But the true, nuanced lexicon remains the gull's exclusive understanding. This assembled flock alternates between excited chatter and long, searching cries. Soon, more will arrive to share the bounty. But this moment belongs to the spotter. Kalen saw them first. He waits, poised, until the fish are starkly visible through the water's lens, then commits to the dive. Down, down, down he plummets, a streak of white against the blue. Gulls pierce the surface, but briefly, submerged just long enough to snatch their quarry before bursting back into the embrace of the air. This swift predation is fortunate for the fish dwelling deeper. Down here, tranquility reigns. Life proceeds at a slower tempo. Fish hang suspended, barely stirring, allowing the gentle oceanic currents to sway them like living pendulums. Further from shore, where the shallows deepen, the majestic architecture of a coral reef rises. Sunlight filters down, dappling the intricate structures with shifting aqueous light. Tiny, iridescent gobies flit like scattered jewels through the golden-hued labyrinth. Larger fish, painted in hues from fiery orange to electric blue, drift with serene deliberation, their movements languid, almost dreamlike. They navigate this vibrant city in near silence, or so it seems, though some emit hushed sounds, the soft pop of rising bubbles, the delicate swish of a tail fin rippling the water. These are incidental noises, unlike the constant, purposeful clamor of the gulls above. Initially, each fish appears encased in its own sphere of awareness, gliding past others with barely a fin's breadth between them, yet seemingly oblivious. They resemble commuters on a crowded thoroughfare, intent on their individual paths, acknowledging no one. Yet, this apparent detachment belies a hidden world of connection. Fish communicate through a myriad of channels. Silent signals travel via electrical impulses or the subtle release of pheromones. Light and color become messengers during courtship. Certain species flashing bioluminescence or shifting their chromatic intensity. Body language governs collective movement. Fish react instantaneously to the gestures of their neighbors, enabling the breathtaking synchronicity of vast schools, a strategy for safety and foraging. But sound, traveling even faster underwater than through air, remains the most prevalent medium for marine conversation. A thriving reef is a symphony of color and sound. An azurine fish, vividly blue, circles a coral outcrop, emitting a low resonant purr. This male seeks a mate, his vibrating call broadcasts through the water, hoping to capture the attention of a receptive female. He repeats the sonic signature again and again, the sound generated by rapid contractions of his swim bladder. Other fish converse by grinding pharyngeal teeth or snapping jaws. Herring employ a peculiar method, releasing high-frequency gas bubbles, a seemingly effective way for shoals to maintain cohesion. In the darkness, fish perceive sound differently than humans. Vibrations detected by their inner ears carry messages, mating calls, warnings of danger, assertions of dominance. A matriarch clownfish, for instance, signifies her status with sharp pops and chirps made by opening and closing her jaw. In the abyssal depths, certain fish croak baritone love songs, serenades potentially reaching mates kilometers away. The meaning of countless other sounds remains obscure. Perhaps the marine equivalents of chants, shouts, or simply songs sung for their own sake. Their true significance a secret held by the currents. Scientists strive to decipher this underwater lexicon, cataloging the mysterious sounds of the sea, from humming fish to squeaking manatees. Plans exist for a comprehensive digital archive, the Global Library of Underwater Biological Sounds, playfully acronymed GLUBS, aiming to monitor the ocean's acoustic health. Perhaps alongside purrs and croaks, some fish even communicate with gloves, adding another layer to the ocean's vast, largely unheard sonic landscape. Beyond the reef, in brighter open water, another conversation unfolds with exuberant energy. Two bottlenose dolphins, Coralia and her daughter Echo, slice through the sunlit blue, their passage marked by a stream of effervescent clicks and whistles. This mother-daughter pair explores, hunting fish together. Like their prey, they employ diverse communicative strategies. A sharp tail slap or a forceful exhalation through the blowhole often signals alarm. Synchronized swimming expresses solidarity. They send messages through artfully released bubble clouds and breathtaking aerial leaps. And then there are the sounds. Coralia and Echo maintain near constant vocal contact, their high-pitched whistles weaving a complex dialogue. They recognize each other instantly by sound alone, even at a distance. Each bottlenose dolphin possesses a unique signature whistle. A mother dolphin hums hers repeatedly during pregnancy, embedding the melody in her unborn calf's memory. The calf, Echo in this case, spends her first year refining her own distinct call, influenced by the whistles of her pod members. Once perfected, this personal sonic identifier serves her for life, a tool for sharing information, expressing emotion, and navigating social interactions. As the pair spirals downwards, Coralia emits her signature whistle, a long vibrating squeak that resonates through the water. Echo responds, not with her own developing call, but with a perfect imitation of her mother's. This affectionate mimicry, rare in the animal kingdom, speaks volumes about the profound, unique bonds within dolphin families. The connection between mother and calf is exceptionally close and enduring. Echo will remain by Coralia's side for several more years, learning the arts of survival and hunting. Even after achieving independence, she will remain within the pod, periodically rejoining her mother to swim side by side. For now, they are inseparable. Deeper they plunge, whistling tenderly, their movements an intricate ballet. Reaching their chosen depth, they turn, ascending towards the familiar company of their pod. As Coralia and Echo swim surfaceward, their joyful clicks gradually diminish, fading into the immense quiet of the deeper zones. Quiet, but not silent. A new sound emerges from the depths, a melodic, resonant moan that swells in volume, haunting and profound. It is the song of Solon, the humpback whale. He swims in slow, majestic solitude, performing vocalizations of extraordinary complexity that can last for 20 minutes or more. His low, ethereal tones travel hundreds of miles through the ocean's vastness. The sheer beauty of the sound is captivating, but the enigma of its purpose lends it an even deeper fascination. Scientists remain uncertain why humpback whales sing or why their songs possess such intricate, lengthy structures. Often composed of distinct sections or phrases varying in frequency and amplitude, these patterns are repeated cyclically, sometimes for days on end. Humpbacks compose and perform elaborate songs on loop for reasons not fully understood. Perhaps they are mating calls, territorial declarations, or sonic maps. Or perhaps, like humans, they simply create music for the intrinsic pleasure of it. Whatever the motivation, the whales sing throughout their lives. These extraordinary melodies are not static. They evolve over time. A whale might even learn parts of another's song, sharing phrases across vast distances, a marine form of cultural exchange, one whale adopting the dialect of another. Solon continues his slow, plaintive song as he ascends. Even as he nears the surface, the water remains dark. Night has fallen. Moonlight casts a silvery sheen, barely penetrating the upmost layer. The ocean is hushed. the whale's song the most distinct sound in the nocturnal seascape. His harmonies crescendo, then finally cease. His powerful vocal cords require rest. It is time to breathe. Slowly, his massive head breaches the waves. He draws a deep, conscious draft of the cool night air through his blowhole. Unlike humans with their autonomic breathing, whales must decide to inhale. Thus, deep sleep occurs near the surface, ensuring easy access to air. Sleeping habits differ among whale species. Sperm whales nap vertically in pods, appearing to stand upright in the water column. Solon, weary from his long journey and extended performance, feels drowsiness descend. Floating gently at the surface, he closes an eye, surrendering to rest. Tonight, stillness settles over the ocean. Solon's song is ended. The dolphin pod rests near the shallows. On the moon-drenched reef, fish repose amidst the coral. High on the cliff, Kalen, Lyra, and the fledglings huddle asleep in their nest. The only distinct sound now is the ocean's own timeless rhythm. The tide creeps shoreward, waves washing over sand, then receding, in and out, in and out. It is as though the sea itself draws deep, slow breaths, each exhalation soothing its marvelous inhabitants into deeper slumber.